Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Positive Street Talk with Rick Mo. I am Rick Mo from Rick Mo Productions. I am sitting here with a good friend of mine, Twon Billings, who is, hey, I'm just going to say this, another very interesting guy. You know what I'm saying? I've been had some interesting people on the last couple of weeks. Twon is another one. Twon actually hails from California. He was into some things in California, then he moved here and he kind of changed his life and his lifestyle, and for the best. So I'm gonna let Twon, tell his story. I always say, I don't like to toot nobody's horn, I'd rather them to do it themselves. So Twon, tell the people where you came from and how it happens that you ended up in Cleveland and what you've done, on the positive side so far.
My mom, I was born up here in Cleveland. Stayed down on 83rd and Woodland. And during the time I was staying down there in the 70s, I lost my father to a motorcycle accident. And I was back and forth to Los Angeles up here. And during the time I was up there, went through a lot. Abuse and all sorts of different things in life. Got to learning how to get into mixed martial arts and all that type of stuff. And what I used to do, I used to go to the concerts and sneak into concerts, old school music, and I used to sneak into concerts, hooking up equipment for artists. And moved up here at 83. And when I moved up here, pretty much I got involved in, introducing one of our, biggest groups here, from Los Angeles. What the name is irrelevant. Because, it's positive talk.
Right, right. Well, surprisingly enough, Twon, you can talk about that. You can talk about the groups and where you hail from and how it all started, because you're moving from the negative to the positive. So if you want to elaborate on that a little bit, please do so.
Well, my mom was a single mom up here, a strong woman that was going to college to educate herself. That nasty disease ended up getting involved, cancer. And every time I got locked up in 86, she came up with breast cancer in 86. 88, I was locked up again. It came into her again in one of her lymph nodes. And then I think in 91, it finally, I was locked up again, but I was able to come out. And that's when it took her.
Okay. And, you keep saying you was locked up. Elaborate on that. Elaborate on being locked up.
Well, I was a idiot. Moved up here. I was a violent kid that, was suicidal. I didn't value life because I didn't see no future in life. I came from an abusive background. What I'm saying? All I knew was abuse. I always said that I'll never let that ever happen to me again. And I think that that's what turned into that. Anytime I felt like somebody was, abusive to me verbally or anything else, it was a trigger for me. And I guess it got me continuously locked up. And I did 13 years on a life sentence. And God gave me an opportunity. I would say that God gave me an opportunity because I asked him before I went in to see the parole board, if you give me another opportunity in life, I promise you I'm going to serve you full time. And he gave me my first parole. On my first hearing, I got a parole. You ask anybody, nobody get a hearing and get released on their first hearing. And I didn't even go to a halfway house. I got straight released. And I struggled when I first came home, and I got to, I was angry because I couldn't get a job. Nobody would give me a job. It was a job looking for a job, and I couldn't understand that, So you know, had to do a few degrading things in order to, you know, stay above float.
Right.
That I
right.
didn't appreciate doing.
Right.
And
right.
I ended up getting some contracts when they found out I was out. You know, police officers used to be after me became chiefs and lieutenants, and the Department of Rehabilitation and Youth Services brought me back and gave me $150,000 contract. And I started doing motivational speaking all over the place, talking about the gang background and, you know, talking to young people and, you know, single moms and grandparents. And, you know, God just opened up a major window. And, you know, here I am today, although went through a few other different trials and tribulations. But here it is now that I'm the Democratic city leader for East Cleveland, as well as the city councilman. I was a council president, and now I'm a councilman there.
Okay. Some time ago, you had some dealings with Mayor Mike White. Could you elaborate on that and tell us how that came about? And you know,
so my mother was a prosecutor, and during that time of her being a prosecutor, my mom, you know, wanted somebody to deal with her son. I don't know how the conversation, I can't lie to you, I don't know how that conversation even came about. All I knew is I was upstairs, coincidental, at my grandmother's house. My grandmother stayed on the second floor. And my brother came up and said that, Mom want to see you. So I came downstairs, and when I came downstairs, I noticed it was two police officers. And it was like this, and I'm thinking in my head, like, what did you do? What did you do? What did you? And I couldn't figure out what I did. So I'm walking down the stairs, and they was like pointing, because I'm looking at them, and they like pointing at the room, and I looked, and Mike White was like sitting swag. You know how cool he was. He's sitting up there. He was like, come on up in here. And so I see my mom, and so I'm like, Mike White up there, what the hell is he doing here?
Yeah.
So I sit down, and he said to me, he said, listen, you know, I know who you is. I know about this gang stuff, and I'm not going to tolerate it in my city. So, you know, of course, he said some other choice words, but we want to be nice. And, you know, what ended up happening is that he told me, he said, if you think I'm playing, of course, he told me, you know, how important my mother was. And he told me to take a look outside. I'm like, look outside? What the hell is outside? And I walked out. It was the SWAT team and a whole bunch of police all up and down the street with the MP5s and everything. So I'm looking at everybody out on the street like, man, what the world did you do? And I'm like, you know, so I come back in the house, and he said, this is what's going to come after you if I hear anything about you trying to move the California mindset into my city. You know what I'm saying? But, you know, that obviously didn't work. You know, and that's how that came about. That story just was released a few months ago, I would say approximately 6 months ago, when a reporter asked me why did I know so much about gangs, because he was talking about East Cleveland and interviewing me as the council president at the time. And he was asking me about taggings, and that's how I told him. And then when he found out who I was, he was like, oh my God, I want to talk to you about that. And they contact Mike White. And that's how, you know, Mike White validated. He said, oh, so Twon is a councilman now. So he actually, you know, been, you know, as I haven't seen him yet, but I understand that he want to, you know, meet up and everything like that. So what the Plain Dealer did, they hooked him because all that conversation brought in George Forbes. And, you know, because Fannie Lewis, George Forbes, and Mike White was my inspiration. I love them, you know, so that's who they mirror me as a person in East Cleveland.
So George Forbes he was the council president at one time. He was a councilman, but he was doggish, man.
He used to throw chairs and everything.
You couldn't play with George Forbes, man.
You know, it's funny. It's funny.
I remember seeing him on the newscaster. I can't remember the newscaster's name, but he stopped him in City Hall.
What's his name?
And he said he owed something on his water bill, and George Forbes lit into him, man, told him he'd F him up, and he'd do this, and he'd do that. And Fannie Lewis and the late, great Lonnie Burton, who was a friend of mine.
Oh, that was Lonnie Burton?
Yeah, had to grab him and pull him to the back.
I remember that. Carl Mundy.
Yeah, Carl Mundy. Yeah, a young Carl Mundy.
Yeah, young Carl Mundy. Trench coat Carl Mundy.
Yeah, man, he approached George Forbes in that City Hall, talking about a water bill that he owed. And George Forbes lit into him, man. He told him he will F him up. He would do this, do that. And I was a youngster at that time. I'm like, look at George Forbes. I mean, he was all over him. And and if they wouldn't have grabbed him, it was definitely Lonnie Burton and Fannie Lewis.
Yeah, because he came back out the door to holler back at him because he was pressing him, right?
Yeah, man. And that if you anything like that guy, man,
well, you already know. You already know the controversy behind me.
You know, and then I know Twon personally too. We've been knowing each other for about 10 or 12 years now. You know, and we've become pretty good friends.
Yeah.
And like I said, he's a very interesting guy, man. He done some things and been through some things, and for the most part, he's very positive. But I guess if you rub him the way Carl Mundy did George Forbes, then another guy gonna come out, you know. And we all have that other person within us.
Yeah.
You know, if you push the right buttons.
Yeah.
We all have that other person within us. It just comes out of some people faster than it do others.
Yeah.
You know. Yeah. But Twon, I want to elaborate on something else. You know, I know you were affiliated with gangs in California, this, that, and the other. So you want to talk about that? You want to talk about the name of the gang? You want to talk about any of that? Because it came from, you know, you're a totally positive guy now in my book.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that can be talked about if you would like to talk about some of that also.
Well, I think that, you know, I was involved with, you know, my family was mainly Piru Bloods, and I was raised around, you know, that environment in Inglewood. And I moved over in the Avalon Garden Projects and with my other side of my family.
Okay.
And those was Crips.
Okay.
So, you know, they Grape Street Crips. And, you know, that's pretty much what I adopted myself around, you know, because that was, you know, although my favorite color is red, but that's what, you know, pretty much I know. And, you know, it materialized into something that I learned a lot from when I stayed down there and moving up here in Cleveland and, you know, going through what I went through in the penitentiary and growing as a man. You know, from the gang life to political life, you know, I tell people I went from being the N to a black man. And I'm going to tell you, Rick, it's more harder ever to be a black man than it is to be in the N. Because being the N, you can just deal with a problem and you don't care about consequences.
Right.
But when you're a black man, you have to think about the consequences that come about. You got to think about your children. You got to think about your responsibility, your cars, your house, you know, it's a responsibility when you're a black man, considering you being the N. Right. You know what I'm saying? Right. So, you know, I had to learn, you know, like you were saying, you know, about being rubbed the wrong way. You know, I'm learning, and I tend to now try and stay myself away from people. If I find any way that it's a situation where it's a bunch of ends around, I'm not going around it. Right. But if it's like, you know how we always see each other like concerts or something like that, you know, the stylistics or something like that, the shy lights or whatever, you know, because, you know, people is going there to enjoy. You probably only see about 1 or 2 police officers. Right. You know what I'm saying? Right. And that's the type of environment, you know, people that's complimenting each other's clothes and things like that. That's the type of environment I like, you know, but that old gang life and things like that, it wasn't productive for me. You know, it cost me you know, a lot of time out of my life. My family is deceased, so it's just me alive.
Yeah.
So I have to be careful. Although it's a lot things that can trigger me, I try not to react. You know what I'm saying? And I try to do my best to talk to God and everything like that. But you're right. There is situations that you can be triggered because once you then came from an environment, it's I guess that is always going to be embedded
always
in you,
there,
you know,
right,
because it's a
right.
trigger, you know, like
Right.
if I'm talking, you know, to you and, or let's do it better than that. I'm talking, I mean, you talking to me and then I start hollering at you. What type of reaction do I think I'm going to get from you?
Right. You're going to get that same energy.
Yeah, you're going to get that same energy.
Yeah.
So, you know, it's like, you know, the gang background is, you know, pretty much for me is that I learned from it. I educate people from it, and, you know, to stay away from it. You know, Cleveland, you know, young people is groups. They're not gangs. They're groups.
Right, they're groups.
Yeah, they have no idea. When you stand in an environment like that, you can't wear certain colors. You can't have your hat turned a certain way. You can't go in a certain neighborhood. I mean, it's rules and everything.
And you have to abide by them. It's there in California. You really have to abide by them.
Man, let me tell you, California, Los Angeles is a very deceiving place. If you go down there, you will look at beautiful palm trees, beautiful weather, clean streets. You're like, oh, this is beautiful. But you go in the wrong part of that and you would die. You would die. If you have the wrong thing going, you would die. There's rules of engagement there. It's nothing like that nowhere in America. Nowhere like Los Angeles. There's rules there. And even in New York, you know, it's rules there, but it's not like Los Angeles. There's strict rules there. It's embedded rules. From Mexicans to blacks to even racist portions of Los Angeles. So it is rules.
So now you go into the schools a lot. You talk to the youth, you know, about gang violence and just violence, period, around the Cleveland area. You know,
I've actually all through, you know, I traveled all through Ohio. I've been in Canada. You know, I worked in various different environments, you know, educating people about negative lifestyles, you know, so yeah.
Yeah. So, so you when you talk to these children, you just talk to them about negative lifestyles. Okay. What do you think about, and I think about this a lot, man, because, you know, I'm a young guy from the projects myself, and I've done some things, you know, some negative things. I turned my life around from negative to positive, but I've never been
Locked up.
I've never been to the penitentiary,
thank
but I threw some bricks at the penitentiary, and most of my friends have been to the penitentiary, you know. And the group I ran with, as you say, groups in Cleveland, you know,
BCO
was BCO, but you know all that about me already. So those are the people that I grew up around and grew up with. You know what I'm saying?
Well, those was gangs. See, Dynamite Devils, Brick City Outlaws.
Yeah, the DDs and
you know, all them
Lions. They was real gangs at that time.
Yeah, D30 and all that. So yeah, those was actually Cleveland's original gangs.
Exactly.
Other than that, after those.
Well, it was back in the day, way before our time.
Okay.
There were some gangs, 59ers, older guys.
Okay.
You know, like in the 50s, 40s, early 60s.
Was there a spinoff of the Nationalists and all that?
No, this was before the Nationalists.
Okay.
You know.
From the Huff riots and all that.
No, this is before the Huff riots. You know what I'm saying? And some of these gangs was in my neighborhood, man. And I hear these old guys talk about them. Some of those old gang members, they talk about them. And I can't for the life of me think of the names of those gangs as many times as I heard, except for the Black 59ers. I grew up on 59th and Houseway.
Okay.
So, but man, I can't think of the name of those gangs. It was some They went to Central Junior High School, and then it was some that went to Kennard Junior High School, and they battled, you know, and they lived in basically the same neighborhood, up on Cedar,
right.
79th and Cedar, down to 55th and Cedar is, you know, basically the same neighborhood.
Right.
But I can't think of the name of these gangs, but they were serious back then. You know, they were serious, and then the nationalists came along and became something different. You know, but today's violence, man, young children, black children, killing young black children. I have a problem with that. I want to have a segment on the show about that, because we always talk about how white police kill black men, you know, but we are actually killing more black men than white police are.
That's a fact.
I'm not saying it's right for the white police to kill us, but we're killing each other. And most of these killings are from the age of 25 down to 16 years old, 13 years old. And the killers are of that age. You know, you got 14-year-old killers right here in Cleveland. 15-year-old killers, you know.
Younger than that, be honest with you.
And we have to try to change the mindset of some of these youngsters, man. You know, I don't know how it got like this. I think a lot of them raised themselves because of the drug problem that we have in our communities, you know.
Well, here's how I felt like it got to this point. We became a lazy society. We allow people to infiltrate our homes and tell us how to parent it. You know, there's more males than it is men. There's more females than it is real women. We don't check each other about our behavior. You know, we hypocrites. You know, black folks have became to a point where we compulsive complainers and we ain't gonna throw rice at a wedding. You know, the city I govern, I reached out to every black organization that you can think of. East Cleveland should be a black Wall Street. You got all that real estate there. The good white folks allowed us to have it when it was beautiful.
Exactly.
That was the first suburb of Cuyahoga County. East Cleveland stretched all the way down there where you got to think about the Winston Willises and all them. You know, East Cleveland had beautiful history. You know, it got observatories, it got all kind of stuff. There's no excuse why black people can't come together. So one of the things I told Michael Ealy, the actor Michael Ealy, I said, you know, they came over Kamala Harris, he was helping her campaign. And I told him, I said, bro, nobody give a damn about Kamala Harris. They don't even know who she probably is. I said, the only reason they over here to take a picture with you. Most of these people over here is the ends. They're not black. What they're going to do, they're going to take a picture with you and they're going to go their own way. They're not going to be trying to network and figure out how to build an enterprise and things like that. We don't operate like that. We operate on reality TV shows. See, profiting off of black ignorance is big business. You know, anytime we good, why you think they had the end fights? We entertainment. The boxers, anything that destructive, they make money on us.
That's right.
The morgue and everything, they take our heart. We don't even be in the ground and they gutting us. They taking our eyes, they taking everything. So they love it like this. You know, we the guinea pigs. So anytime that, you know, when you talk about cancer, look at all the black women now all of a sudden starting to catch cancer. Haven't you noticed that all of a sudden this junk is jumping into women and they taking them out within months? Nobody ain't talking about that. You know what I'm saying? We have became a society of acceptance. We just exist. You know what I'm saying? We cannot teach our young people like, okay, when it used to be to a point where black men and black women died for land and you leave your house to your kids. Now your kids are saying, man, I don't want that responsibility. I don't want that responsibility. You can have that. And they'll walk away from it and then it'll recycle back into the man's hands. You see what I'm saying? So we have gotten so disconnected from who we are as black people. We disconnected. Our whole thing is that we just winging it. We just existing.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? But when it comes to drama, oh, we there. We'll tear something up in a minute. Well, man, in a minute. Anything when it comes to slander, think about it. They put out a rumor right now and said Twon Billings did rape 3 women. Do you know they have put that all over Cleveland Remembrance, and it'll go around virtually all over the United States within a matter of 3 hours.
Mm-hmm.
We love that. That's what we built on. Why you think in the reality shows some of these women that's beating up other women, or the men that's, you know, doing, oh, that's my girl, that's my girl. They love the drama.
Mm-hmm.
That's all we know.
Wow.
So we can't play man and we don't know how to be men. Men, you know, people our age is filtering out. We had morals on things.
We did.
You know what I'm saying? We had a structure, like the way we dress when we out.
Mm-hmm.
The average young person gonna think we head to church.
Oh, we some pimps or
we
something?
some pimps. You know what I'm saying? Like, well, why can't I love Stacy?
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So,
right.
you know, the appreciation of good life is non-existent. You have to dress ready for Mortal Kombat. You got to be dressed. That's the reason why you got to wear the mask. You got to be ready for that work. You got to be ready for that trouble. You see what I'm saying? So we becoming, you know, the black man and the black woman is becoming non-existent. We don't exist no more.
You know, Twon, we're gonna stop for a second, and we got to have a word from our sponsors, okay? So just hold your horses. We're gonna keep on going. You just sit tight for a minute. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, here's a word from some of our sponsors. First of all, let me talk about the building that blew up in Garden Valley the other day, where they dropped the baby from the window, okay, from that 3rd floor window. I saw that on Facebook, you know, and when I saw those buildings, I knew it was a neighborhood that I know very well, because I'm still from that area, even though I grew up across 55th. Up Kingsman was still considered my stomping grounds, okay? And I used to run through those apartments over there. But if you want to donate something, clothes, monetary gifts, food, or whatever, to help these people out, because they're homeless right now. And surprisingly enough, no one died, you know? But it's, you know, they need somewhere to go. They need new things. So here's some of the drop-off locations for clothes, toiletries, and other items that are needed for the victims of the Garden Valley fire. Okay, Zelman George Rec at 7310 Carson Avenue. Okay. New Door Church at 17325 Euclid Avenue. Drop-off times are Wednesday, 6 p.m. to 8, and Sundays, 9:30 a.m. to 1 p.m. East Academy, 15720 Kipling Avenue, Cleveland, Ohio. That's 44110. And the drop-off times for that is Tuesdays through Thursdays at 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. until July 11th. Okay. Let's see here. We got a sneaker ball coming up. Patrick Henry Junior High School alumni presents a sneaker ball for the fall. Okay. That will have vendors. The tickets are $20 in advance and it's $25 at the door. Okay, and it's going to be held at the venue on the North Vine at 20713 North Vine Avenue in Euclid, Ohio. That starts from 6 p.m. to 12 a.m. September 20th. Like for y'all, everybody that went to Patrick Henry, we're in that neighborhood right now. We're airing from the Cleveland Public Library. on 118th in St. Clair. So if you grew up in this area, went to Patrick Henry, hey, come on to the sneaker ball, okay? You want to check that out? I got a couple other things here I want to talk about. I want to talk about Kim's at Club Jazzy. Miss Kim, owner of Club Jazzy's, okay, is having a birthday party, summer madness celebration. Wear your summer colors for Kim Rosebud's birthday party. That's July 11th at 7 p.m. with DJ Ron C. Food, fun, drinks, secured free parking. 40 and over is a must and no tennis shoes. That's July 11th. That should start about 6 o'clock p.m. Okay. I thought I had something for Miss K birthday celebration. She is the hostess at here it is right here. Okay, Club Jazzy presents an Hawaiian luau. Okay, August 3rd for Miss K. Okay, and Hawaiian luau. And for those who don't know, Club Jazzy's is located at 1550 East 191st Street in Cleveland, Ohio. Okay. Hey, a lot of things go on at Club Jazzy's Wednesdays through Sundays. Okay, you guys come on out and help support Club Jazzy's. Okay, I got something special going on. We're going to do a special podcast tomorrow with Miss Jada Renee. Okay, at the Destination Dream Foundation Art House. You know, they're having a big block party July 19th, and we're going to be there. But we're going to do a special podcast tomorrow with Miss Jada Renee. The block party will be held July 19th at 11504 Forest Avenue, Cleveland, Ohio 44104. It's going to be at the Destination Dream Foundation Art House. Hey, look, this Dream Foundation Art House is amazing from what I hear. I'm not going to talk too much about it because I won't know too much about it until tomorrow. But tomorrow, which will be Friday, we will be airing from there at 4:45. Okay, y'all stay tuned for that. Okay, and check this out. It's going to be real nice. They're going to have the Forecast Band will be playing there. A lot of things will be happening. It's called the Be Happy Block Party, okay? And it's going to be real nice. We're going to go talk to Jada tomorrow, do a special podcast with her so we can make this thing happen. You know, I'm always about community, okay? Always about community, you know. I'd like to thank my friend Twon Billings, I'm sorry, for coming on Positive Street Talk today. Mm-hmm. You are an inspiration, man. I appreciate you so much. No doubt. We got a lot of things, other things going on. Hey, if you need a video promotion for your business, give me a call at 216-376-3360. Okay. If you are a community person, a community leader, you know, and you want to come on Positive Street Talk and, you know, speak, please do so. Give me a call at 216-376-3360. We do ask for donations. We have to pay our help. Okay, so we do ask for donations, especially if you want me to come on location, okay, and do a video promotion. We ask for donations for that. You know, we have to keep our podcast going, but we really appreciate all you guys. You can also hit me up in my inbox, leave a phone number in my inbox on Facebook. You know, continue to follow Rick Mo on Facebook. The show airs on my Facebook page. It also airs on YouTube. Follow me on YouTube. Positive Street Talk on YouTube. Rick Mo Productions and Promotions on Instagram. It's all the same. We all tied in together. It's all Rick Mo. Okay? So you guys continue to follow me, man. I appreciate you guys, especially the followers that I have now and the people that continuously call me and tell me how great Positive Street Talk is going for right now. Thank you all so very much. This is Rick Mo and Twon Billings signing off from Positive Street Talk. Thanks.